very early this year for us. Last year, you were like, we do not talk about prospects until December. Now we've already got some pretty early like risers and fallers that you felt compelled to discuss for the 2025 NHL draft. Let's start here. Do we want to start with the risers or the fallers?
Yeah, real quick. The only reason that I was like, yeah, it's worth doing this right now is because like already the top 15 or so looks significantly different than it did when we did our preseason lottery, whatever, top 16. And like substantially, like half of the picks, I would say, or like half of these guys are probably like flirting with top 10 that like we hadn't even brought their names up before. Probably should have, yeah, but again, that was even significantly early already. So
talk to me though, because I think it's important for like listeners who are maybe more casual followers of like NHL draft prospects, right? We've had not even like full draft years, but we've had stints throughout the season where like there's been a big shuffling of player names and where you put them. But I feel like at certain points, it's like this player did nothing wrong. Other players have just excelled, and that's why they're getting pushed down. And there's other times where it's like, no, this player has been awful, and no one's doing anything to push him down. These risers and fallers, is it largely that like players are torching early and it's pushing people down, or are players playing poorly and leaving an opening in the top 15?
I a little bit of both. Like,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, one of well, I don't even want to go. I want to start with the risers, but like a guy like Anton Frondell will be in the latter category for sure. A lot of that has to do with he just played his first game of the year.
Oh, okay. Fair. All right, well, let's start with the risers then. Who do you want to lead off with here?
So I would say one of the more drastic risers of the last like 2-3 weeks. I mean, like for me, I'm sure there are other people who have been all over this already, but like Jackson Smith, a left shot defenseman for the Tri-City Americans in WHL. He is massive. He's a 6'4". I think he's listed at like 6'2" or 6'3" on like the WHL website, but I think it was Hockey Canada that may have were like 6'4". Yeah, he's a big boy. But he combines this frame with absolutely ridiculous skating. Already has all the defensive aspects of the game down, and on a Tri-City American teams that doesn't really like to use a ton of like rush offense, especially from the back end, he is super active in terms of jumping up on the rush, getting involved offensively, experimenting with the tools in the offensive zone. He does that, and like he's a little bit raw just in terms of like deciding when to go and when to stay, or like when to jump up and when not to. But when you look at the raw tools combined with the frame of like a 6'4", 200-pound left shot D-man, just the mobility, the size alone gives him like a very high floor. But the fact that he's got some really good skills, he's got nice hands, he's got a great shot, he is physical, he's mean. He kind of just like grades out tool-wise very high, like in every category. So this is a guy that I would imagine probably by the end of the year is a pretty consensus top 10 guy for sure. And he has been a fucking animal so far for Tri-City. I think he had another 3-point night the other night. I got to pull up. It was literally once I put down my risers, like my stats were already not accurate anymore. Because he put up like a 3 or 4 point night the other night. Let me pull it up again here. Where is he? Come on. Yeah, no, he's got 8 points in 7 games. And again, this is a Tri-City team that does not really involve defensemen in their rush offense whatsoever. But he is flying out there. He's one of the best defensemen in WHL. So he is definitely one to keep your eye on. I think he actually did go like second overall the WHL draft a couple years ago. So like realistically, I'm sure there's plenty of people who had him very much on their radar already. It's tough at this point. You're grading a lot of like, or you're doing a lot of rankings just based on like the D-1 tape. So, and And Tri-City stunk last year. So I think he's like -30 last year. But this year he's off to a ridiculous start. Again, the fact that he combines the frame with all the tools and the fact that he's got like the willingness to experiment with those tools, it makes him a super, super high ceiling player. So he's definitely one to watch. But like his skating is absurd for a guy his size.
It's like how far did he jump in your mind? Again, super early. Like I get it, but like this is a guy that you never even talked to me about before when we were like discussing first round picks this summer. Like, is this a guy that you're like, oh yeah, he could very easily profile as a top 10 pick, or is it just like this is a guy that's probably a first rounder?
I think when we did our first one, like it was like at that point in time, you're pretty familiar with the guys that you put like in your top 16 or whatever. Yeah. And then like, the guys that should be first round guys, and you can put them in any order and it's going to change in like a 2-week period. He was a guy that would put in that latter category. It's like, yeah, he's definitely a first rounder. Like he's a very good hockey player. Haven't seen him on a good hockey team yet, but we'll see how it goes. And the first 7-8 games this year, he's been absurd. So now he's like probably, I would imagine consensus. I'd be shocked if he wasn't like consensus top 10, 11, 12.
Oh, okay.
I think EP, I think put him at like 7 or 8, something like that.
Okay. Fair.
He is legit. He is a fucking player.
Talking about the CHL quick. I think Pete Blackburn's a very entertaining dude. I think their podcast is fun. They were talking about US based teams, and they were convinced that there were only 2 that exist across the CHL. And then like them slowly unraveling, being like, oh shit, there's at least 6 and we think there's more. Okay, fuck. Let's abort. We're not going to talk about this anymore. The one that I'll like hand up admit, I had zero fucking clue that the Erie Otters were in the US. Did not know that.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I know. That's so weird to me. Like it just doesn't make sense.
Played junior hockey.
Correct. That's what really messes it up for him. Like, oh, so they're just like somewhere up in Canada. Cool. Got it. Like there's got to be some kind of Erie something. No, like that was Erie, Pennsylvania. But I knew a lot of the other ones, like easy to like look at Seattle and Portland. Duh. There's a ton in Michigan. Hunter Haight, shout out. I asked him if it was like weird winning a championship for the US. He's like, no, like we won. I'm good.
He's like, no. God damn it.
He will not be coming back on the show, but you guys should go listen to the one interview he'll do with us.
He said, I'll never come back. Thanks for having me.
I will say it's interesting because I got like similar vibes of like the person between him and Haight, having both of them on the show. Haight was like totally like, oh, thank you so much for having me. Like, I'd love to come back on. And Haight, I could tell he's like, I'm gonna be polite, but I don't really want to hang out with you anymore. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. I'm not a good time.
This was scary. I was scared the whole time. I was scared. I've been afraid.
He wasn't scared. If anything, like he came in, he's like, all right, so I've clearly marked you as a beta. Done. Oh, all right. Moving on. Tell me about Victor Eklund. And is he related to Slippery Pete?
Younger brother.
Fuck yeah. Better or worse?
He might be better. So he's a fascinating player. The only thing working against him is the style that he plays, not being 6 feet tall, and being pretty light. I think he's like 160. He's a 5'11", 160, right shot, left wing. He is absurd. So last year, when you just look at his point totals, doesn't really jump off the page. Like at the J20 last year, U20 Sweden, he was under a point per game. And for like top prospects, you expect them to be like at least a point per game. And then he made his way onto the Allsvenskan team for Djurgårdens. And at this point already, he's one of the best players in that league. He is an older player for this draft. He's late 06. So he's only eligible for this draft by like a month or so. But he's got this just uncanny playmaking ability. He's got a ridiculous shot, and like the motor is non-stop with him, and he affects the game in all three zones. Like he does everything, and he hits everything that moves. He will, even though he's smaller than everybody, he is going full speed, and he's strong as shit. But he is so fun to watch. I mean, last year he went up to the Allsvenskan, and he was like 5 or 6 points in 15 games, which is very good for a young player. Usually you don't even get ice time. Again, by like 3 or 4 games in last year, he was already in their top 6. Went on to the playoffs, and he was just under a half a point per game in the playoffs for Djurgården on a team that went to I think they lost in the second round maybe. But he was one of the better players in the playoffs there. And at this point now he's already one of the best teams or best players in the Allsvenskan. He's scored a couple ridiculous goals already this year, 2 off the rush where he's just like pulling up. He's got a 1-on-2 and he's like, fuck it, I'll snipe from like the blue line. And he is ripping shots through. He rocks. Like he is so fun. For me, he's a top 10 guy at this point already. I would have probably put him closer to like 18 maybe when we did our last one, but he's a big time riser. And this is where I'll start talking about the Frondell thing. Because of how good he's been the last, like at this point, like a year, the last few weeks I've just gone back and watched the Frondell tape, both for Team Sweden and for Djurgården, because they've always been line mates. A lot of Frondell's points come from Eklund, like driving play. Like Frondell's awesome. I'm not as low. Like I think EP actually put him really low, but he's going to be one of the guys that's falling because given how some of the other top guys are playing, come out of the fact that he's been hurt for like a year, like I can't consider him in like the challenging for first overall anymore. I can't do it. But like going back, and especially for Team Sweden, most of the play driving was by Victor Eklund as a winger. And again, affects all 3 zones. Very fun to watch, nonstop motor. So he's going to get, I don't know if he'll look taller, but he'll definitely like continue to even grow more muscle and get stronger. And he's already pretty fucking strong as is. Mm-hmm. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. I think he's going to continue to torch in the Allsvenskan. I think he's half a point per game at this point already. But he rocks. Oh no, he's just under a point per game now because he had a 3-point night that night. So nice. He is excellent.
So where's he sit? Where's he sit? I'm gonna ask you with everybody, like
I'll play around 10.
Around 10. Okay.
Yeah.
And for all these, you can keep it as simple as top 10, top 20, first round, whatever. Like, and if it's
I have a hard time putting him outside of 11 or 12. I'd have a hard time like any lower than that. He is he is ridiculous.
That's fun. All right. Then we got to talk about Lynden and McQueen, which it won't happen because of the way the draft works, but can you imagine if Tampa got him?
Oh my God.
That'd be fun.
Sick. I'd throw up. So Roger McQueen, 6'5", just under 6'6", right shot center for the Brandon Wheat Kings, another older 06 guy. So he's one of the older players in this draft class. He took a long time to adjust to like being 6'5". So like probably looking for some better numbers over the last few years in WHL, but he is off to a torrid start. And he's also like become a legit solid shutdown center as well, with ridiculously high offensive upside, and his skating's taken another step or two in the last year or so. So he's like beating guys one-on-one. He is hammering people. He's stick handling around guys. Again, one of their go-to guys in the PK. He is a very good defensive forward. Like he does everything. So at this point, he is absolutely a guy that will be challenging for first overall. When you look at the overall profile, the frame, and just like how he can do pretty much everything, like his go-to forever has always been the ridiculous high offensive upside. At this point now, his B game is a premier, probably like 0.75 point per game shutdown center. Like I don't see a world where he doesn't become a top 6 forward in the NHL. And it will likely be at center. So
okay,
he's going to be a guy that should be probably challenging for first overall.
Really? You're that high now?
I'm close. Yeah, I'm close. I probably put him.
You had him, I think, like 9-ish when we did this in the summer.
Was it 9?
I might be stretching it. It definitely wasn't top 5. It wasn't outside the top 10. It was somewhere in that 6 to 10 range, but
I probably had him. Yeah.
But just like it's rare though that we have like this is a year where you had like 2 or 3, even a stretch to 4 guys. And we're going to talk about 2 of them later as fallers, but like it's rare that you have people emerge as being part of the discussion for number 1 overall. It's more like this is someone that's emerged to be top 5. That's a huge credit to McQueen. So awesome. Let's talk then. I think you had him 5 or 6 originally. So the fact that he's a riser means he must be another guy pushing for first overall. Michael Misa.
Yep, 100%. Another one of the what's it called? The exceptional whatever players in the fucking CHL. It's such a weird. Yeah, it's such a weird thing. It's so funny to me. But given how ridiculous Saginaw's been the last few years, he's been like pretty much like last year specifically, they loaded up obviously, and then he was pretty much pushed out to be like he played wing, more like a defensive forward type guy that still put up good points. He is this year playing first line center on Saginaw. He is well over a point per game. He's scoring tons of goals. I think he's averaging over 2 goals per game at this point. Still is a ridiculously good 2-way forward. One of probably the more well-rounded players overall in this draft. Definitely going to be challenging for first overall. Probably would have said this like a couple years ago when he was like over half a point per game as a 15-year-old and 16-year-old in the OHL. He is ridiculous, and he is off to a crazy start so far in the OHL. Again, he's like a 6'1", 190-pound center at this point. And again, affects the game in all 3 zones, solid defensively. And now that he's being utilized as a center, he looks like an out and out center, like handling A+, passing A+. He's got a good shot, super, super smart player. And he's like gotten significantly more physical this year too, where he's throwing some big hits, and engaging at the right times. So he's another guy that's probably going to be challenging first overall here. And realistically, just given the fact he's exceptional status and he's been in the OHL for so long already, shouldn't be that surprising, I guess. But given the fact that last year, again, Saginaw loaded up and he was so young that they had him playing as like a defensive forward, as a winger, like it's not like he just wasn't really utilized as like a go-to guy for offense. Now he is, and he is close to the top of the OHL in scoring. So he's going to be another guy to be challenged first overall. He is off to a ridiculous start.
We like that. Joshua Ravensbergen, which is just a fun name to say.
So
it's like if you took Ben Roethlisberger and put him in Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So Ravensbergen, goaltender. With essentially no glaring weakness whatsoever. He's fucking huge. He's a 6'6", 6'5", 6'6". Moves incredibly well. What?
I said that's definitely not a weakness.
Yeah, no, size plus. But moves incredibly well in the crease, reads the play really well. Walked on, basically, to Prince George last year, the WHL, and became their starting goaltender last year. Like, earned a contract, and at this point, he's probably going to be Canada's starter at the World Juniors. And at this point, given how he's progressing, I would say that he's probably going to be, if he continues on the path that he's on, he'll probably be a guy that, like, for teams picking high that need a goalie that have nothing in their system, they're going to be looking at him like closer to anywhere from like 11, 12 to 16. Like
right,
if there's teams picking there that need a goalie, like
I'm going to stop you
given
though.
how he's playing, I would assume that's like this is the best goaltender that Canada's produced like in a few years, like a few years.
Well, yeah, in a lot of years, but like no one wants our goaltending expert analysis because we aren't qualified to offer it. But to simplify it for fans and listeners, compare him to recent goalies. Like, would you take Ravensbergen over an Askarov, over a Wallstedt, over a Kosa? Like, where does he stack with recent goalies drafted?
I mean, it's tough because he's kind of come onto the scene later than most. Again, this is a kid that literally like walked on to Prince George last year. But assuming he continues playing how he's been for the last year, which I don't really see any reason for him not to do that, he's going to be in that kind of a category. Guys like Askarov, Kosa, and Wallstedt, they all had long track records. Like anyone that was following goaltenders for the draft or whatever, like everyone knew who they were for years. Ravensbergen's kind of like come on late, and he is this massive southpaw. He's he catches with his right, but he just has no glaring weaknesses.
I don't like that.
There you go.
All right, so I think it's pretty much determined then that whoever beats Edmonton in the Stanley Cup Finals is going to be pissed when Edmonton trades back, let someone else go to the 31st pick and take Ravensbergen. Yeah? Fair?
Solid. Yeah.
No one's arguing it. All right, last one that we have here for the risers before we get into some of the fallers. Lynden Lakovic. Fun name.
An absolutely fascinating hockey player. So this is a 6'5" left winger who pretty much like primarily the last few years was like just a guy that was driving wide and shooting. Now he's become this like ridiculous playmaker, ultra deceptive, and the skating's taken like another stride. Like, I mean, he looks like a completely different player just with his skating. Love that, by the way, he plays with Kalen Parker and Moose Jaw. But like he makes high-end plays at full speed, which we've talked about before with some of the players that were drafted last year. Like the ability to blend, being able to move and think quickly is a big part of just like hockey sense in general. But he makes high-end plays at high pace. And the fact that he's like 6'5" is insane. So I think he is going to like rip apart WHL. I think he's well over a point per game already at this point. But the fact that he can blend the playmaking at top speed and he's got a real good shot, like he is a sniper too. Like if he continues to just like torch WHL, he's easily top 15. Easy.
Fun.
He is fun to watch now. Such a different player last like year or two.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's pivot then. The fallers of the 2025 NHL Draft. We got to start first with your boy, Anton Frondell.
Yeah, so this is tough. So like before we start, I mentioned like I think he literally just played his first game of the year. Like he's been hurt. He was hurt a bunch last year too. So like part of this is just the fact that he hasn't been able to stay super healthy. But as I was talking about Victor Eklund before, like going back and watching the tape, a lot of the points that he was producing, a lot of it came from the play driving ability of Eklund, where he looks like a player that can be a really good connector, maybe not your go-to driver on a line. I still believe in him. He's still, for me, a top 10 guy. But like I went from being like he's going to be challenging for first overall to I'm not so convinced anymore. I still think there's a very fucking good hockey player in there. I see a potential top 6 forward that can score and play really good two-way game. But like game breaking, I have more questions about now. So we'll see, but it's just a lot different going back and restudying the like draft -1 tape and the Team Sweden tape, especially just given the fact that like whenever you watch those games, a lot of it was like a lot of the offense was generated from a guy like Victor Eklund playing on the line with him. But there's still a ton of value in converting those chances. And I mean, his shot is a joke. Like he has an absolute cannon that he could score from deep. But there's a ton of value, obviously, in like being a play connector and being able to finish in the shot. And he's got decent size and he moves well. So still a top 10 guy for me, easy. For sure.
Okay, that was going to be my question. So still a top 10 guy if we're drafting today. What about Jakob Wozniak?
He's falling quickly. Like he was, I think actually at the Holinka this summer, if you were to just look at the production, it was fine. I think he scored 4 goals in 5 or 6 games. Okay. He was an absolute ghost. Like, I mean, I forgot while watching those games that he was playing. He's under a point per game so far with Lulea in the J20. He doesn't really look like he's driving play, which, I mean, I guess wasn't really one of his go-to things in general, but like very much reliant on who he plays with. He's a sniper. The shot is still ridiculous. He can score from deep, but you need to get him the puck in the right scenario. He's a decent enough skater, but I'm having more doubts about him hitting his high ceiling, just given how much of a passenger he's been, especially to start the year. I mean, like the Holinka was like legitimately bad. Like it was a bad tournament for him. And he just happened to like be in the right spot 4 times like and scored. But like the fact that he's well under a point per game, like last year he was setting records for like point production for his age in the J20. This year it's just been hard to watch. So I'd probably still keep him like in the first round, but I mean, he went from being like 6, 7, 8 on like a lot of boards, probably closer to like mid-20s at this point.
Gotcha. Another guy that you had as in the discussion for first overall, probably just on the outside looking in compared to the other 3 that we talked about more heavily, but Ivan Ryabkin was pretty early tabbed to be, the next in the line of great Russians to be, maybe in the discussion for number 1, but probably not because they're Russian. What's he done so far?
I mean, he's been fine. Like, he's good. I like him a lot. He's probably closer to like 12, 13, 14 range at this point. What's annoying is like, I actually think he would be significantly better playing like 8, 9, 10 minutes in the KHL versus playing a lot in the MHL. He looks like he just doesn't give a shit in the MHL. Like, I mean, like whatsoever. And like every now and then he will produce some ridiculous play, whether it's him scoring himself or like setting up a teammate or whatever. But at this point, it's pretty few and far between. But like the engagement right now is just like kind of confusing. So he's capable of pulling on. He's capable of going like Sports Center top 10 mode every time he fucking touches the puck and just like doesn't. But when he does, he makes like it's a highlight reel play. The consistency is bad. Like is one of the more inconsistent top guys for this draft class. I still think he's going to be like he's the first Russian off the board, easy. Still a top 15 guy, easy. But before, I think at this point I put him 5 or 6 or 7. I don't even know where I put it. Either 5, 6, or 7 when we did this in the summer. I'm probably more comfortable closer to like 13, 14, 15. I think he's like still under a point per game in the MHL, which is not good. Like the MHL, he should be torching. But I just like the engagement is not there. And I honestly think he would be better just filling a role in the KHL, which I mean, they'll give him 45 seconds.
I was going to say, be careful what you ask for there, but
no, I know. I think he'd be better playing. Like if it was if that league wasn't so weird about young players, if he was playing like 10 minutes a night, it'd be significantly better than him playing 20 in the MHL, to be honest with you. Just given how he like approaches the MHL at this point. But I mean, who knows? He could turn it on the rest of the year and then he's right back where I had it before. But because like the talent and the ability is without question. Like when he turns it on, he is incredible.
Fair. All right, we got two more here. First one, William Moore.
So another one
William less apparently.
Oh, damn.
I don't remember.
That was horrible. I don't remember if we had him in the.
I don't think we did. I'll pull up the doc, but I don't think we did.
Yeah, maybe not. So this is another guy where like, so the USNTDP this year is not good compared to past years. He should be able to, well, the USHL squad anyways. He should be like his talent level is top 10 in this draft class. He is ridiculously good. He leaves you so frustrated virtually every
12. Sorry.
I did have him at 12. I thought I had him there.
Oh, wow. You had him ahead of the guy that we're going to talk about next, which I didn't think. But okay, continue.
So again, this is like he should be their go-to center this year. He should be well over a point per game. He has game-breaking ability. Again, like if he were to turn it on and just be consistent, he's a top 10, just like raw talent in this draft class. He literally, like, you finish watching his games and you're mad. Like you're you're so much better than pretty much like, I don't know, 90% of the guys on the ice. And it's just like he'll pull a playoff once every 5 times. But like he can, and it's in there, and you know the talent's in there. So you're just waiting for him to decide to do it, and he doesn't. And you're just sitting there frustrated. So it's only been a few games, but like I was enraged the last couple of games, and I was like, I can't fucking do this. I was pissed off, and other guys just jumped him in general. But I'd still put him in the 20s. He's easily still a first round guy for sure.
Sure. Especially
given the fact he's got top 10 talent, but he's becoming one of those players in a draft class that's just so frustrating because there's so many games where it's like, hey, if you decided to take this game over, you're absolutely good enough to do it.
Right. Remind me, which Boston school will he be attending?
Take a guess.
I really don't even know what that means at this point. They're both pretty freaking good. BC?
I thought he was BU. No, am I wrong?
Oh, I don't know. I just figured if you were going to say, take a guess, I lean BC because I don't know.
Yeah, no, the second you were like, I don't know, I was like, oh, now I'm doubting myself. I thought he was BU.
All right, that's okay. We can move on to the final player.
Me nuts now, so.
All right, well, you find it then. Get it. Hit it. Nothing? No? Giving up?
Not BC. I was wrong. There you go.
Oh, see, based on the way you said it, I assumed that's what you were implying. So I'm very confused now, but that's okay. Last faller that we're going to talk about here as we wrap up the week, Charlie Trethewey. Was at 13 on your previous list. Let's hear about where he's at now.
Yeah, probably a very aggressive take. Every time I watch him now, there's one game where he thinks he's this kind of a defenseman, then the next game he's doing something different, and he just looks confused on the ice a lot. I think part of this just has to do with the fact that he's with this USNTDP team.
In fairness, see, that got Klingberg a lot of fucking money. So maybe that is the way.
He's just.
What if you interviewed him and he like, who do you model your game after? Oh, John Klingberg. That guy didn't know what the fuck was going on, and he made a lot of money. Like, respect.
Yeah, Klinger.
Respect, Charlie.
My boy Klinger, dude. But again, like, not the same as like a William Moore where it's like, bro, do it. Like, do the thing. It's more of like I don't know if this player knows exactly what he is. Like sometimes he looks like he's just trying to be like a really solid skating transition defender versus there's other games where I'm like, oh, he's trying to like run offense the whole time. He's good enough to do it. I think he's either one or the other for me. He's somewhere. He's probably like in the NHL 4 or 5 that you can play a ton. Not going to be like a 50-point offensive guy, probably. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure there's other people that would disagree with that, but I just see the first few games, or I think he's played like 12 or 13 games, something like that. A lot of performances, like he looks like a tweener, and he's not sure which one he's supposed to. Like he doesn't really know his role, which part of that makes me think that it has something to do with the fact that he's on this USNTDP team, because they're just not. Like it is a very, very different squad than we've seen in the past. But he's another young guy. I'm pretty sure he's very young for this class. Yeah, he's an August birthday, so he's young for this class. And by the way, his real name, fun fact, is Charlton Trethewey, which actually makes me want to put him in the top 10. So,
that's so much better. I'm changing it right now.
Yeah, no, delete him off the Twitter list. No, but he's big right shot D-man. I don't think like. I just put Fall because, again, I'd probably have him closer to mid to late 20s at this point. A lot of it has to do with other guys really rising, but at the same time, there's just been a bunch of performances this year where, like, you're not really sure what player you are, I don't think. But sure. I'm sure he's going to go off now that I said that.
All right, then last question, because I know you mentioned several guys now that are in the discussion for first overall. Is Hagen still firmly your number one, or are you like, yeah, he's like leading, but I'm not so sure?
Yeah, he's still he's played 2 games with BC so far, I think.
It's less about him than it is about other guys. Like, has anyone done enough to be like, maybe not?
I mean, no, but there's still challenges. Like again, so this is what we talked about.
Right. I understand. There's challenges. No. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just like, this is the first year that in a few years that it's been like, hey, we have a couple of contenders. Like before, it was like Bedard, no shit. Like that's happening. It's not like that this year.
It's only been a few years. Like it was Celebrini, no shit. It was Bedard, no shit, and then it was like, what the fuck is happening with this draft when it was Slafkovsky?
I think everyone was like, we know it's going to be they're going to go with Slafkovsky,
but that one was more interesting to me with what followed after it, which of course that was your draft of fame where you like nailed the top like 12 in a row. It fell off quickly after that, but it didn't matter. You had a lot to drink celebrating the top 12. Didn't matter.
It's like, we're here's done.
When you said Cooley's going 3, people shit themselves, and he went 3. And then after that, everyone was on your side.
I'm like, all right. And then I started shotgunning beers.